Our last office hours, we had one more demonstration that we didn't get to that I would like to present right now. What we would like to do is have button 1, 2, 3, and 4 each occupy 1/4 of the view. So button 1 would take up the entire top left of this view, button 2 the entire top right of this view, and button 3 and 4 at the bottom of the view as well. So we need to set our constraints in such a way that they are in a grid, so button 1 is in the top left, button 2 is in the top right, so on. And we also want these constraints to resize each one of these buttons to fill all the white area. Let's do that. So first we'll take button 1 and button 2 and align them using these blue guidelines. These blue guidelines are helpful because they'll let us know what is the nearest neighbor. So the nearest neighbor to the right of button 1 is button 2. The nearest neighbor of button 2 to the left is button 1. Let's also align button 3, now their neighbors top and bottom, and button 4 with button 1 and button 3. We also want to align all these buttons in relation to the view as well. Let's go ahead and select all these buttons and bring them up to the guiding lines right here. What this does, it lets us know that to the left, the nearest neighbor to button 4 is the view margin, and also going down, the nearest neighbor to button 4 down is going to be the view margin as well. Same thing with button 3, 2, and 1 on the different edges. Next thing we're going to do is add the constraints. So I'm going to select all these buttons and click on the pin button in the bottom right hand side of the main storyboard. This will bring up a window, and the first thing I'm going to do is type in the spacing that I want between each of the buttons. Let's say I don't want the button to be right next to button 2. I would like a little bit of white space in between the two. Let's say I want to add 10 points of white space in between these buttons. So I will add 10 to each one of these items right here, each one of these text fields. Let's talk about what that's doing. So for each item selected, the nearest neighbor to the top is going to have 10 points of vertical spacing. So there will be 10 points of vertical spacing between button 3 and button 2, and also between button 2 and the view. And we can say the same thing about to the left, right, and to the bottom of each one of these selected items. The next thing that we're going to do is choose equal widths and equal heights. This will make sure that when the view is made that each one of the buttons will have equal widths, so left to right, and equal heights up and down. You'll see that there are 18 constraints here. I click on it and I'll add them. Now let's go ahead and bring up our assistant editor right here and look at the preview, and we see in the preview that everything looks good. Everything looks like we want it to. This is a 4-inch iPhone. It looks good in portrait and also in landscape. A 4.7-inch iPhone, which is the iPhone 6, looks good in both orientations. And also the 5.5-inch iPhone, which is the iPhone 6 Plus, looks good also in both orientations. But this change is not being reflected in our view. There are a couple ways to fix this. The first way is to open the document outline, and then if we were to look at the view controller scene, we can look at our constraints, we can see our buttons. What we're interested in is this little icon right here to the right of view controller scene. Clicking on it, it will show the 4 issues that Xcode is having. Let's go ahead and click on one of them and update the frame. So this says set the frame in the canvas to match the constraints. What this will do is Xcode will look at the constraints that we've made for each one of these buttons and then update our frame accordingly. If we do that, clicking fix misplacement, that'll fix button 4. But we want to fix more than button 4, we want to fix all of them. I'm going to Command Z, undo that. Let's click on button 4 again and press apply to all views in the container. That will fix all of them all at once. Let me undo that one more time, show one more way to fix them. You can also click on this icon on the bottom right hand of the screen, which is Resolve Auto Layout Issues. Clicking on that brings up nothing. Why does it bring up nothing? Is because I haven't selected any of the buttons yet. So let's choose one of them, button 3 here. Clicking on this icon, we can update frames. So it will take all the selected items that I have and update them. So I've just updated button 3 there. If we want to update all of them at once, we can either select them all and press update frames, or we can press update frames right here, which is all the views in view controller. So clicking that, everything has been updated to look appropriate in our storyboard. Nothing, of course, has changed in our preview. That has remained unchanged. We just had to update our storyboard. So that is our demonstration. If you have any questions about what we did here, feel free to ask the questions that you have in the forum. And we look forward to interaction there.